Have you noticed the silence in the Red Sea? For months, headlines were dominated by Houthi attacks on commercial ships, sending shockwaves through global trade. But then, almost overnight, the attacks seemed to stop. What happened? Was it a victory for the international naval forces, or is there something much more complex playing out behind the scenes? Today, we're diving deep into the so-called strategic pause in the Red Sea, uncovering the hidden geopolitical chess game that led to this surprising lull in hostilities. Let's rewind a bit. Starting late last year, the Ansar Allah movement, better known as the Houthis, began launching a series of drone and missile attacks against ships they claimed were linked to Israel. In response to the conflict in Gaza, this effectively turned one of the world's most critical shipping lanes into a high-risk zone. The al-Mandab strait, a narrow choke point connecting the Red Sea to the Gulf of Aden, is vital. Around 12% of global trade, including a huge portion of oil and natural gas, passes through it every year. The attacks forced major shipping companies like Maersk and Hapag-Lloyd to reroute their vessels all the way around Africa's Cape of Good Hope. This added thousands of miles, weeks of travel time, and millions of dollars in fuel and insurance costs to each journey. The ripple effects were felt worldwide, with supply chain disruptions, delayed deliveries, and rising prices for consumers. It was a crisis that demanded an international response. And respond they did. The United States launched Operation Prosperity Guardian, a multinational coalition of over 20 countries dedicated to defending commercial shipping in the Red Sea. This involved deploying warships, conducting patrols, and most visibly, shooting down incoming Houthi drones and missiles. The US and UK also carried out targeted airstrikes against Houthi military sites within Yemen, aiming to degrade their ability to launch these attacks. For weeks, it was a cycle of attack and counterattack. The Houthis would launch projectiles and coalition forces would intercept them or strike back. It seemed like a stalemate. Then things went quiet. The constant barrage of attacks dwindled to a trickle, and then, for a significant period, stopped altogether. So what changed? The simple answer might be that the military pressure worked. The coalition's defensive actions were undeniably effective, with a very high success rate in intercepting threats. The offensive strikes on Houthi launch sites, radar installations, and weapons depots also likely took a toll on their capabilities. It's plausible that the Houthis simply needed time to regroup, rearm, and reassess their strategy in the face of a determined and technologically superior military force. Constant losses of expensive drones and missiles aren't sustainable forever, even for a well-supplied group. But that's only part of the story. To truly understand this pause, we need to look beyond the military dimension and into the world of diplomacy. The key player here is Iran. It's widely understood that Iran is the primary backer of the Houthis, providing them with financial support, training, and, crucially, the advanced weaponry used in the attacks. The drones and anti-ship ballistic missiles deployed by the Houthis are largely of Iranian design and origin. Therefore, any change in Houthi behavior is almost certainly linked to a signal from Tehran. So why would Iran tell the Houthis to stand down? This is where the geopolitical chessboard gets fascinating. During this period, there were reports of quiet, indirect talks happening between the United States and Iran, often with Oman and Qatar acting as intermediaries. These back-channel communications are a common feature of international relations, allowing adversaries to de-escalate tensions without losing face publicly. The main goal for the US was to prevent the Gaza conflict from spiraling into a wider regional war. An out-of-control situation in the Red Sea was a major flashpoint that could easily escalate. For Iran, the calculus was complex. While supporting the Houthis allowed them to project power, pressure Israel's allies, and gain leverage, a direct confrontation with the United States was something they likely wanted to avoid. An all-out war would be devastating for Iran's economy and internal stability. By instructing the Houthis to pause their attacks, Iran could demonstrate a willingness to de-escalate, creating space for diplomacy and potentially easing some of the immense pressure they were under. It was a calculated move to lower the temperature while still maintaining their strategic assets in Yemen for future use. Another crucial factor is the ongoing peace process within Yemen itself. For years, Yemen has been ravaged by a civil war between the internationally recognized government, backed by Saudi Arabia, and the Houthis. Before the Red Sea attacks ramped up, there were promising signs of a breakthrough in peace talks brokered by Saudi Arabia and Oman. The Houthi attacks put a major strain on these negotiations. Saudi Arabia, wanting to finally exit the costly war in Yemen and focus on its own economic ambitions, had a strong interest in stability. It's highly probable that significant diplomatic pressure was applied by the Saudis and other regional players on the Houthis and, by extension, on Iran to halt the Red Sea attacks so that the fragile peace process could continue. The Houthis, in turn, need a political settlement to solidify their control over northern Yemen, so they had an incentive to listen. So this strategic pause wasn't just about running out of missiles. It was a confluence of military pressure from the West, complex back-channel diplomacy between the US and Iran, and intense regional pressure from players like Saudi Arabia, who desperately wanted to avoid a wider conflict on their doorstep. It was a moment where everyone, for different reasons, had an interest in taking a step back from the brink. The Houthis could claim they had made their point on the world stage. Iran could show it was a responsible actor capable of de-escalation, and the US and its allies could see a return to relative normalcy in a vital waterway. But here's the critical question: is this pause permanent? The answer is almost certainly no. The underlying issues haven't been resolved. The Houthis have not been disarmed, and their political grievances remain. Iran's regional strategy of using proxy forces to challenge its adversaries is unchanged. As long as the broader tensions in the Middle East persist, the Houthis remain, as they've been called, a loaded gun. They have demonstrated their capability and their willingness to disrupt global trade, and they can be activated again whenever their patrons in Tehran see a strategic advantage in doing so. In fact, we have already seen a recent uptick in attempted attacks, suggesting the pause is over and a new phase may be beginning. The dynamics are constantly shifting. The future of the Red Sea's security depends on this delicate balance of power. Will diplomatic efforts succeed in finding a lasting political solution for Yemen? Will the military deterrent be strong enough to prevent future attacks? Or will the Red Sea once again become a frontline in a shadowy regional conflict? The strategic pause gave the world a brief respite, but it also served as a stark reminder of how interconnected and fragile our global systems are. A regional conflict can, in an instant, have consequences that reach every corner of the globe, affecting the goods we buy, the fuel we use, and the stability of the world economy. The quiet in the Red Sea was never a sign of peace, but rather the quiet breath before the next move in a very high-stakes game. What that next move will be is something the entire world is watching very, very closely. Thanks for watching. If you found this analysis insightful, be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into the events shaping our world. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. See you next time.